With the NBA 2K23 ratings recently being released, I thought it'd be a fun idea to name the best active NBA player from every 2K rating, all the way from 65 to 97. My only rule is that I'm only using the 2K rating for organizational purposes. How 2K rates specific attributes or the badges they give to each player is irrelevant to my choice on who I think is the best player from each rating. Also, this is an active list, not an all-time list, so I will be rating them on how their current talent is. Without further ado, let's rebound onto that list. The best player to be rated 65 is pretty much the only player to be rated 65, and that is Myles Powell. The best player to be rated 66 is Malik Newman. He averaged 8 points per game, but he only played one game last season, though I do think he has the ability to average those types of numbers if given serious role player minutes. With a 2K rating of 67, my pick here is Olivier Sarr, who I think is really underrated. While he only played 22 games in his rookie season last season, he averaged 7 points and 4 rebounds in just 19 minutes per game. This guy can one day potentially be a solid starter in his prime. He's a 7-footer who could hit threes, space the floor, and protect the rim. With a 2K rating of 68, my pick is Quinndary Weatherspoon, and while he only averaged roughly 3 points per game, I think he's an above average athlete with potential to be a serious role player in the future. At 69, nice, my pick here is Admiral Schofield. And sure, he only averaged roughly 4 points per game, but I see a lot of PJ Tucker in his game, especially since they're both 6'5" shooting guards who can guard power forwards and technically can play positions 2 through 4. Plus, they both weigh around the same at about 240 pounds, which many would consider too heavy for that height, but I think it benefits his play style. And he's got a lot of developing to do, but I do think his future is pretty bright. At 70, we have Jock Landale. Udonis Haslem is a fair runner-up, but 70 might be his years in the NBA, not just his 2K rating. I'm kidding, of course. Haslem is a champ, but he's clearly more of a coach at this point than a player. Jock, on the other hand, had a really promising rookie season, and I think he's got a big learning opportunity now that he's working with DeAndre Ayton. He could surprise the league with his new set of skills. Ranked at 71, I would really like to put Taco Fall here, but I gotta be fair to the league. Taco is too goated, so I'm going to be more fair and pick a player like Trey Burke. And yes, Trey isn't the player he was 6 or 7 years ago, but I still think he's got that in him to give a team at least 10 to 15 points a night if they really gave him the playing time. Ranked at 72, I'm easily taking Troy Brown Jr. Troy is the definition of untapped potential, and I think playing with LeBron is the exact thing he needs to showcase what's really in his skill set. He's a 3-and-D type of player, and the Lakers will benefit greatly from his defense. Don't just overlook his stats and write him off. I think the Lakers got a really underrated pickup with Troy. With a 2K rating of 73, there's a ton of good options from Boban, Austin Rivers, and even Benedict Mathurin. I would really like to pick Mathurin, and I think by the end of the season that would be my choice, but for now, since he hasn't played a single NBA game yet as of this upload, my pick has to be Dean Wade, who can space the floor and was an under-the-radar reason as to why the Cavs were so good last year. Wade was one of the reasons why the Cavs were so comfortable with giving up Laurie in that trade for Donovan Mitchell, because Dean can easily emulate somewhat of his play style. He's got great range and floor spacing. Ranked at 74, my choice has to be Austin Reeves. He had a promising rookie season, and the rumors of him starting for the Lakers is not a product of the Lakers having a bad roster, but instead a product of Austin actually being a good player. They don't call him Hillbilly Kobe for nothing. The 2K rating of 75 has a solid number of picks. You got choices like Jetty Osman and Mason Plumlee, but my pick here is Jaden McDaniels, and I think McDaniels is ready to surprise the NBA and have a breakout season. Jaden has a really high ceiling, like he actually might be the second option to Ant-Man within a few years, and that's not a diss on Cat, but more so a true compliment on how high Jaden can take things. Ranked at 76 is a close call between Cameron Payne and Evan Fournier. Cameron might be the better defender, but if you need an all-around scorer who can play multiple positions, Evan is more of your jack-of-all-trades type of player that can easily give you 15 points a night, so my pick here is Fournier. Ranked at 77, I easily have to go with Jordan Clarkson. I really do believe if Jordan was a primary scorer and was given starters minutes, he has the ability to average over 25 points per game. That doesn't mean you should do that. What I'm getting at is he's a truly gifted scorer, and I think his absolute best is good enough to make an all-star team. Maybe not franchise player type of all-star, but a bench all-star. Speaking of which, he was 6th man of the year during the 2021 season. Players rated 78 have a ton of good choices. My top 3 are John Wall, Gary Trent Jr., and Buddy Hield. In my heart of hearts, I would really like to pick John Wall, and by the end of the season, I hope John Wall proves the whole world wrong and become prime Wizards type of John Wall. But if we had to be critical, we simply don't know if that's going to be the case as of this upload. Buddy has the best stats, but I think Gary's play in a system where he's not asked to be a primary scorer is why maybe box score wise you can't compare him to Buddy, yet he can still give you 18 points per game, so for that he gets my pick here. With a 2K rating of 79, my pick is one of the best dunkers in the NBA, and that's Aaron Gordon. Gordon fits well with the Nuggets, and I think once guys like Jamal Murray get back on the court, his game will thrive even more since opposing defenses will have too many weapons to worry about. With a 2K rating of 80, my pick here is Anthony Simons, who recently developed into a near all-star type of player. He more than doubled his point per game average, and yes, Damian didn't play for the majority of last season, but regardless, Simons' playstyle is very similar to Damian's, and he's learning well from him. I think these two, with the comeback of Nurkic, can remind the world not too long ago that the Blazers were one of the top teams in the NBA. This was one of the best pick-and-roll teams in the NBA with Nurkic, and Simons will help bring back that to fruition. Ranked at 81, this easily goes to OG Anunoby. I think pretty much 2K underrated the Raptors across the board since statistically all players play a team game, and on the box score there isn't a dominant stat smasher, but OG is an OG who can give you 17 points a night, and he didn't even reach his prime yet. With a ranking of 82, I have to give this one to the Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart. You can probably make an argument for Jalen Green or Josh Giddey, but I think we're a few seasons away from either one of them taking this spot, but by then their 2K rating would be through the roof. 83 has a lot of great options like Desmond Bane, Fred VanVleet, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, and while Klay is not the same Klay as 2016 Klay, I still think he's one of the best shooters in basketball, and he's still a really good player, so I have to give the Splash Bro this spot here. 84 also has a ton of great choices from Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, Jamal Murray, and Andrew Wiggins. Aside from the Rookie of the Year race, the Canadian battle is the real debate, Jamal Murray versus Andrew Wiggins. I think you can make a great argument for either player. Andrew is the better defender, but Jamal is the better shooter. The only wild card here is we truly don't know how Jamal will bounce back from his injury since he missed a full season last season. So as of right now, I think the more critically safer bet to take is Andrew Wiggins, but we will find out in the future. With a 2K rating of 85, I am taking Jarrett Allen, who is probably the best two-way player on this 85 selection list. Centers like Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton are great runners-up, but Jarrett is the better two-way player. Individually, you could argue that DeAndre Ayton is the better scorer and that Robert Williams is the better rebounder, but not only has Jarrett Allen brought defense back to Cleveland, he can also drop 16 points per game. Rating 86 is a really tough call. You got Chris Middleton, Anthony Edwards, DeJounte Murray, and Pascal Siakam. I think we are 1 or 2 seasons away from this being an Anthony Edwards versus DeJounte Murray debate, but by then, these guys would easily be in the 90s. For now, this is Chris Middleton versus Pascal Siakam. I think Pascal has the far tougher job compared to Chris, as Pascal kinda has to play point forward sometimes for the Raptors and help run the offense, whereas Chris has a lot of pressure taken off of him thanks to Giannis. And with that being said, I do think Pascal has the higher upside, so for that, I am taking Siakam. The bite of 87 has some nice choices like Zion Williamson, Bam Adebayo, and Darius Garland, but my pick here is Jaylen Brown, who probably was the best Celtic during the 2022 finals. Zion has a chance to surprise the league and have a huge comeback, but for now it's not proven yet. Jalen's greatness needs no explanation. 88 is a tough call between Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Zach LaVine, and Rudy Gobert. Offensively, it's a close call between Spider-Man and Flight 8. Defensively, this goes to Rudy, but for two-way play, Paul George is the best two-way player on this list who can score and defend, so for that, he gets my pick here. 89 is a tough call between Karl Anthony Towns, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. I think Cat might need 1 or 2 seasons to reach his true prime. While James Harden isn't MVP James Harden, he's still one of the best scorers in the game. Kyrie easily has the best handles in basketball, but as an overall scoring threat, I think we have to give this one to James Harden. Only 3 players are ranked 90 overall. These 3 are Anthony Davis, Trae Young, and Chris Paul. I think Chris might be a tad too old, but he's still really good. Anthony Davis is a bit of a health question mark going forward, though he should technically be good to go for the start of this season, but the safest bet with the brightest future ahead has to be Trae Young, who defenses will have trouble containing now that DeJounte Murray is in his very same backcourt. Devin Booker is the only player rated 91 overall, so this spot spot easily goes to him. Only 3 players are rated 93 overall. These 3 are Ja Morant, Jason Tatum, and Jimmy Butler. I think Ja is 1 or 2 seasons away from being the no question best of these 3, but who knows what the future has in store. Right now, Jimmy Butler versus Jason Tatum is the debate here. Speaking of which, I think Jason has a higher ceiling and is more talented, but hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So this pick goes to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy gives you 110% night in and night out, and you can't really blame him for losing to the 2020 Lakers or to the Celtics in 2022. Jason, on the other hand, you can say was one of the main reasons why the Celtics lost to the Warriors in the 2022 finals. The Claw, Kawhi Leonard, is the only player rated 94 overall, so this spot easily goes to him. Luka Doncic is the only player rated 95 overall, so that spot easily goes to him. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, the 96 overall debate with the incredible options like Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. Man, oh man, this debate needs its very own video, but I will try my best to give you a bite-sized argument. I personally think the closest call here is Steph Curry versus Nikola Jokic. LeBron is just a tad bit too old, but still really good. Kevin Durant is the wild card here, but what I think really needs to be deciphered is Steph Curry versus Nikola Jokic. Nikola is the back-to-back 2-time MVP, and he deserves those MVPs. He's one of the most efficient players in NBA history. Steph Curry is not 2016 Steph, but he's still the league's best shooter, and I will say he's still in his prime. Maybe not his true prime, but in the back end of his prime, and it still counts as his prime. Now, when you compare their strengths and weaknesses and overall talents, it is true that Steph Curry is only a better shooter, ball handler, and floor spacer compared to Jokic. Nikola is easily the better passer, rebounder, and way more efficient scorer. But that can be said for 2016 Steph as well. If we are comparing 2016 Steph, it would be true to say that Steph is simply just a better shooter, ball handler, and floor spacer, whereas Nikola is the better passer, rebounder, and way more efficient scorer. I only bring this up because I think pretty much nobody would say that Nikola Jokic is better than 2016 Steph Curry. And there is some differences between 2022 Steph versus 2016 Steph, most of that which of is physical, and Curry's game isn't really a physical game. Jokic did come off of a historical season, and Curry is technically on the decline per se, but it is very hard to compare a guard to a center. For example, no matter what, Curry is going to have worse efficiency stats on the very basis that he's taking tougher shots, and really though, if you compare it, their true shooting percentages are nearly identical last season at around 64%. As for defense, both are mediocre defenders statistically. Steph did have a shooting slump when he was coming off of his injury, but skill-wise, I don't think his shooting got worse. He's still the best shooter in basketball. Let's start finding some tiebreakers. Curry's off-ball movement is really something that goes underrated because we can't quantify the way we can quantify the Joker's PR, and let me explain. When Curry is on the perimeter, he gravitates entire defenses. This gives his teammates so many wide open paths to the basket or even wide open shots. There really isn't a metric for this. The intangible value is really there. Curry's game never really relied on athleticism, so the age argument won't factor in too much until he gets way too old, like closer to 37 or 38. I like Jokic, and he deserves his MVPs. I think one day he will be in the GOAT debate. The numbers will tell you that this spot should go to Jokic, and I don't mind anyone who would pick him here. I'm still biting my tongue on deciding who I really think deserves this spot. It's that close, and I think if you had to find a tiebreaker and say hypothetically, if your team was down 2-1 in a playoff series and you sorta are in a do or die situation, you would rather have a guy like Curry who can go absolutely nuclear and drop over 40 points a night. Again, this is close, and comparing a guard to a center doesn't really work, but Curry is my choice here. And last but not least, with the highest active 2K23 rating with a rating of 97, we have the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. For bonus, with a rating of 98, we got Big Floppa, who does flop a lot, but you can't blame him, he's got a lot worth flopping for. At 99, we got a pull up, it's Capybara, who always pulls up and can drop watermelons on any given defense. At 100, while Shaq is the only player with a rating of 100 in 2K history, we gotta give this one to Big Chungus, who is wholesome 100. So here is the best NBA player from every 2K23 rating. Let me know what you thought of this list, especially that 96 overall debate, and what you want to see in the future. Don't forget to dunk on that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on. I'm Rebound Rewind, and I'll fast forward to you later.